Greetings and salutations, lords and ladies. Welcome to the Game Masters Tavern, episode 1. I'm Classicor, aka Christopher, and today I want to talk to you about the basic setup you need as a Game Master. Now, many people, many players don't like to be a Game Master because they see so much more work than just being a player, and that can be very daunting. You know, the truth is, although you have to do more than just a regular player as a Game Master, once you get the gist of it, once you get used to it, it's really easy. Easier than you would think, and it's a very rewarding experience and extension of the hobby of role-playing games. But let's start simple. That's always a good rule as a Game Master, especially as a new one. Keep things simple. Try to keep an overview of everything that's going on, but you don't have to control everything as a Game Master. You don't have to prepare everything for every occasion as a Game Master. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first thing you will need as a Game Master, obviously, is a gaming group. Now, finding players once you announce that you're a Game Master should be easy enough. I remember my current Dungeons & Dragons group. About a year and a half ago, I was just spending a night, or rather an evening, in our local games workshop, and I was talking to one of the customers about how I haven't played role-playing games in a while and I wanted to start a new round, a new group. And 10 minutes later, I had the first 6 people of my new role-playing group. Some people left, some people came new to the group, but overall it all started there, and it was really easy once I announced that I was going to be the Game Master. I'm not saying it will always be that easy, but checking out your local game stores, Games Workshop for example, always a good place to look. Hobby stores, comic stores, always a good place to look around for potential players. When you start your new group, I would suggest no less than 3 players plus 1 Game Master, but also no less than 6 players, no more than 6 players. Less than 3 players, it's kind of hard to get things going, especially if you're playing a combat-oriented role-playing system. You might not be able to, get a well-rounded group together, so it could really struggle in combat. On the other hand, once you have more than 6 people, again in combats or other challenges, it really takes a lot of time until any individual player can actually play, because they have to wait their turn for the other players. Also, more than 6 people tend to, just drift off into talking or making jokes or just hurting the game flow. Also, it's very hard to keep track of certain conditions of the characters. Maybe they're cursed, maybe they're bleeding, maybe they have some other effect that needs to be remembered by the Game Master. And it's actually hard to keep track of more than 6 people, even with taking notes. So, you have your gaming group, 3 to 6 people, and you have your Game Master yourself. Next thing you will need is a space to play in. As a general rule of thumb, try to make room for up to 8 people. The reason for that is the maximum of 6 players, which is not, it's just a rule of thumb. Obviously, it's a recommendation. You will need 2 spaces as a Game Master. You will always have some sort of books, maps, your dice, maybe miniatures if you're using those. And you will really need a second space. So let's say you have your little living room, or classical playing place is the basement. You have your 6 players, you're the Game Master, make room for 8 people. Okay. Now, obviously you will have to have a gaming system to play it. And at this point I won't be going into details about different gaming systems. There are so many out there. It all depends on which genre you want to play in, for example. If you want to have your fantasy hack and slay, try one of the Dungeons and Dragons games. Swords and sorcery, try the Conan games. Just the Dark World stuff, Vampire, and those related gaming systems. And there's a lot of sci-fi out there. Mutants and Masterminds if you're into superpowers. If you're really looking for reviews about different gaming systems, check out the YouTube channel of Pucknose Pro. I will post a link down in the video description. Very good videos, very interesting reviews of different systems, different expansions. Everything you will need to know to choose your own system. Now, usually once you've found your system, you will see there are many books, many rule books, many expansions. Again, keep it simple for the beginning. You need a rule book. Simple as that. Some games only have one big rule book for both players and game masters. Especially Dungeons and Dragons on the other hand, and some other games have different books for different occasions. For example, just an example, Dungeons and Dragons, you have one book for players, and this is of the current 4th edition, and you have one book for game masters, which isn't actually needed, to be honest. There's some interesting stuff in there, but do you really need it? Maybe, if you do not know a lot about game mastering, but if you have some experience, you can kind of pass on that. But again, that's going into details which we don't need at the moment. So make sure you know which kind of books you need to game. Keep it simple. Get your basic rulebook. Maybe you will need to buy an expansion for monsters or some other challenges, but I wouldn't go further than that. It's not needed for the first game. Also, of course, depending on which game systems you pick, might have an influence on which players you get. So you kind of have to balance that. It's not always, you start out with the players and then look what you can play with them. Sometimes it's just, you want to play Star Wars, for example. Fair enough. So you will, of course, only find people who want to play Star Wars with you for the group. So it's really up to you to balance that. We have the gaming system. We have players. Now, very important, you will need dice. That's the one thing basically all role-playing games have in common. You have a certain random component that's determined by dice. And this is just a little... It's always good as the game master to have a little bag of dice, to have additional sets, because players will forget this, or you will have to roll several NPCs at once, or you need a lot of dice for damage, or whatever. Again, depending on which gaming system you're playing in, you will have different kinds of dice. The most common, for example, you start out with a 4-sided die, or dice, which is, that's a little discussion within the community. Is it really die, the singular of dice, or is it still dice? People are of different minds on that, but it's not really important. You have the 4-sided die, or D4, which looks like a nice little pyramid. You then go up, you have the 6-sided die, the D6. You have the 10-sided die, or D10. Dark World games, Vampire, for example, and some others, just use D10. I think Mutants and Masterminds also only uses either D10 or D20. I'm not quite sure at the moment, I have to say. Not that it really matters. We have the D8, I forgot the D8, the 8-sided die. We have the D12, the D20, which is important for all the D20 games out there. Again, it's really up to the gaming system you're playing, which kind of dice you will need. If you're within Europe, I will post a link to an online shop in the video description that has very cool dice sets, also for different gaming systems. They're a bit pricey, but they are just awesome. Very detailed, very cool overall, and you will notice every player will at one point try to get their own individual dice. You know, they will have their lucky dice eventually. They will have dice that just don't roll well for them, but that for some reason seem to roll well for everyone else at the table. So there's a lot of fun, a lot of superstition going on with dice in gaming groups. Just wait. If you're a new gaming master, it's very funny to watch that. Just let me take a quick look on my notes. That's another thing. Game masters always take notes. If you have an NPC, non-play character, you take notes. If a player has a good idea for a riddle or whatever, you take notes. Take notes. Always have paper and pencil at the ready. And at the beginning, that's all you will need. You will not need fancy maps or anything, fancy markers, miniatures. Just again, keep it simple for the beginning. You will need pencil and paper, and that will get you over the most important hurdles. One thing you might or might not want to use is the Game Master screen, the GM screen. Again, some discussion about whether it's really needed or not. Basically, a GM screen is a piece of cardboard. Again, I just take the Dungeons & Dragons one for reference, with some pictures on it and some game systems, some rules and tables on the inside. You can roll your dice secretly. If you have a Game Master screen, some people don't like that. You can do it. Those tables inside the screen are always important, always helpful. So even if you do not use the screen, try to get those tables for yourself. Also, just another one. This is from a Star Wars RPG. It is an added bonus because there are, very cool pictures to help people visualize things, to set the mood for the gaming, for the session. If you cannot find a commercial Game Master screen for your system, you might want to do your own. Overall, the Game Master screen is very optional. It's I like to use it, but it's not a necessity. So that's always a helpful tool to have, but again, it's your own decision. That's another thing. As a Game Master, it's your game. You want to have fun as well, not just the players, you're playing the game as well. You have to, direct everything a bit, but it's still also a source of fun for you. So don't get overexcited, don't get too anxious, don't get too tense about things. Have fun with it. Another thing, Game Master does not have to reinvent the wheel. He has to keep people entertained, himself included. Yet another tip, if you're playing, try to play regularly. Be it once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. Try to keep it regular and try to make people come to your sessions regularly. Regularly, difficult word. It will really help the flow of the game itself. So, and basically that is what you will need at the beginning for a basic setup as a Game Master. In the next video I will talk about running the very first adventure and what you will need for that. Future videos will include using maps, floor tiles, and I will talk a lot about miniatures and their use and usefulness in the game. So, thanks for watching. Until then, this was Christopher aka Classicor, and have fun gaming.